the one thing about salmon en croûte is when you make a fish pie, as you know, you'll use a liquid in it.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes make the pastry soggy.
Yep.
So there's a process of doing salmon en croûte so that your pastry never goes soggy.
Right.
And it's got to do with curing the salmon. You've got to do this the night before.
Okay.
And this way you get a firm piece of salmon, so when you cook it in the pastry, it holds together, it always cooks beautifully, it's never overcooked, and actually, even for me, who's not a big fan of salmon,
not a salmon lover.
It's delicious.
So, so if you're slightly curing it, did you say?
Yes.
So it is going to be that sort of almost like a smoked salmon.
That's right,
flavour.
almost like a smoked salmon flaky mixture, and it is really easy. It's equal quantities of salt and sugar.
Okay.
60 grams of each.
Yeah.
Brown sugar and salt mixed together.
Okay.
And into that, we're going to chuck a couple of peppercorns, which I'm just going to grind, really, so they crack open. And what it does also mean is that your piece of salmon is already seasoned.
Yeah.
Now, you can leave, when we do this, it's just going to be left overnight. 12 hours is plenty, but it does need to be left. So you just sprinkle the mixture of salt and sugar across the top of it.
So while you're doing your pork gruyere, you might as well do your salmon as well.
Exactly right. So our special night in, it's the sort of day before. You get everything done the day before.
And you have to leave it overnight. You couldn't do it in the morning and then just leave it until the evening.
Yeah, 12 hours, I think.
Okay, fine.
So yes, you could do it first thing in the morning. Just going to turn that over.
Yeah.
And do exactly the same on the other side with some more salt and some more sugar. And just smear that across the top. And then cover it with a little bit of paper. Just going to pop this in the fridge. So, there. And what happens is this. You'll see the liquid that's come out of the salmon.
Yes.
That liquid is just enough to be able to make your pastry go soggy, and this stops it from going soggy. So
That's
drain
amazing, isn't it?
Drain that liquid off, and which has still got sugar and salt in it. Open up the piece of salmon.
And do you have to sort of pat it dry?
Yeah, you should take all the bits of salt and things off it.
Yeah.
Scrape it all off, and then it's going to pat it dry. So I'm just going to take that off there. So any excess salt or sugar, just take it off.
You want some kitchen roll?
Yeah, a little bit of kitchen roll would be wonderful. Thank you, my love. And just turn that over like that, and scrape that off. Thank you. And put that to one side. Get rid of that. I'm going to use this board. Just got to cut it in half.
Okay.
So that there. Thank you. And a knife. Pat it dry. And then I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to roll it out in pastry.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to cut it in half is we're going to have a double-decker piece of salmon here.
So, and in the middle of it, it needs a lovely filling.
It does need a lovely filling, and that's what you've got. So you've got some crème fraîche, some cream cheese, some watercress, and some blanched spinach.
Yeah, so blanched chopped spinach and some just lovely fresh watercress, which we're just going to chop up as well.
I'm just going to cut this piece of salmon. So now I've got a whole piece of salmon like that. I'm going to cut it in half, because one bit's going to sit on top of the other piece in our pastry. I'll take that end off because it's a bit long.
Do you want all this watercress?
Yes, please. Just chopped up. Thank you.
And while you're washing your hands, we've got this watercress, which is lovely and peppery, spinach, which has a really lovely flavour, and then you've got your crème fraîche and your cream cheese. If you wanted to, could you add anything else? Could you change up the herbs, put tarragon in it, or a bit of mustard, anything like that?
I think that one of the things about all the recipes we do is that everybody at home should cook them a couple of times and then do what they want.
Yeah.
You know, if you decide you don't want cream cheese and you want to put something else in there, that's fine. The whole thing with this, though, is the cream cheese does hold together and crème fraîche doesn't hold together. But
Yeah.
crème fraîche, as we know, is cooked already, so it doesn't split.
Yes.
So that just means you've got a sauce in there. Any herb you want. Tarragon or basil or
Dill.
parsley, dill.
You love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. If you want to put some more peppercorns in it, you can do that as well. That's fine. So, whilst you make the rest of that mixture, I've got some pastry.
Can you just pass me that little pot that you've pushed away from me? I need that.
This one?
Yeah, with the cream
I'm so
cheese in.
sorry. It's so terrible, aren't I?
Terrible, Muriel.
Terrible. And then I'm just going to take the pastry. And I've got 2 squares of pastry here. And it's a bit deceptive. You've got to actually have quite a bit of pastry to do this. So 2 decent-sized squares of pastry. You have to have the top one slightly bigger than the bottom one.
Right, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So now we take our piece of salmon. And we take the piece of salmon here, which we've cut, and put it so it's round side at the bottom.
Yep, skin side up.
Skin side up, I've taken the skin off.
Yes.
You're going to put as much of that as you possibly can on there, and then push that all down together. And what happens, as you can see with the salmon, is your salmon is rounded. So what you want to do is put more on the sides and less in the middle so that you get the whole thing to become flat. Otherwise, you're going to have this sort of bowed over too much thing.
Which we don't want to
No, we don't. And then take the other piece of salmon.
Is that enough for you?
Fantastic.
Are you happy with that?
Absolutely fantastic. Just checking which way I did it. And then you take the other piece of salmon, and this time you put the skin side down so your rounded side is up.
Yep.
Okay, so now you've got presentation side. You can see
it looks so pretty already.
It looks great, doesn't it? I'm just going to wash these.
You wash yours, I'll wash mine in a minute.
2 squares of shop-bought puff pastry. I prefer to roll mine out rather than buying ready rolled.
Yeah.
But ready rolled's fine. Egg washed, which is the sealant of it, around the outside, and be really generous with it. Remember, this is a pie, so it's got to seal, and if you don't seal it, what can happen is the air inside can expand and the whole thing then pops open.
Yeah.
That's not a disaster, but really give it a really good licking of that. Bit of puff pastry across the top, and I just simply roll it myself first. So I've got a bit more control over it rather than just picking it up.
Okay.
And then take it to the bottom, let it fall, and then
As
really...
it should.
And just let it drape over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's a bit like making a petivier.
Exactly the same. And just push these down the side, really. And it looks a bit uneven at the moment, but it's going to be fine in a second because we're going to trim it. And then really push it in.
Tuck it in.
Tuck it in like a bed. Stretch the pastry if you have to a little bit, and then really push that into there. And you will have some extra puff pastry, which you can use because it hasn't touched the fish, and you can use it to make little, twists or whatever.
Yeah.
Trim the pastry to the size you want. Do you want to crimp or shall I crimp?
No, I'm very happy to crimp.
Lovely. So you sort of twist with your finger, and then egg wash it, so that we've done lots and lots of egg wash. And because it's salmon, we want it to look like it's salmon. Look how pretty that is.
It's lovely.
I'll swap over with you. Come to your side. And the reason you egg wash it first is because now we're going to put a pattern on the top. So if you ever see a bit of pastry and you think, oh, how did they get that pattern on there? They don't make the pattern then egg wash it. They egg wash it first, then they do the pattern. So I've got a little spatula, and I'm literally going to put scales on top of my piece of salmon here.
If you were doing a beef Wellington, you could do this as well, like a salmon on croute, and that's how you'd know what was in what.
That's right, so you could always tell. But the other thing is, traditionally, when you served fish, you served it with puff pastry, and it was in a little half moon shape, which was called a fleuron. And that's how you classically always served fish when you got a little plain bit of pastry on the side.
Oh, really?
And I don't know why they did that, but that was the sort of old French classic way of doing stuff. So
Love your stories.
So now we pick that up, whole thing up, and that is going to go into the oven at 200 degrees for 25 minutes. However, that could go in the fridge now.
Yeah.
And it could hold in the fridge for up to 6 hours.
So our gorgeous salmon en croute is finishing off in the oven, and whilst it does, we thought we would whip up some lovely sides. Now, these could work perfectly for dinner parties, but even midweek, as they're so fast and they're so delicious.
Yeah, but also they're very clever, and it's a different way of doing things, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about a different way of looking at vegetables, which I think is the right way to go. People should be eating more veg, we know that,
Yeah.
but it's making them exciting, and I think this is a great way to start.
Well, we're going to do Hasselback roots. And a Hasselback potato is just a roast potato or a Hasselback root, and it's just cut so that it's got these little cuts in them. And they will then, you fill them with lovely oil and butter and salt and pepper, and they roast, and they are just delicious. And it's just another way.
That's for you.
Thank you, my love. So I thought we would show you, I'll show you a potato, and we can show you a carrot and a parsnip, and then you can have fun doing them.
Yep.
So with a potato, the easiest way to do it is on a spoon. Because then what you're going to do, because what you want, if you're chopping it on your chopping board, you have to make sure you don't go all the way through. These are not cut all the way through. So put it on your spoon and just cut down, down, and so your knife gets to the ridges of the spoon and not to the bottom of the potato, like so.
And then if you're going to do another root such as a parsnip or a carrot, you take 2 spoons and use the wooden spoon handle, put them between the handle like so, and then you just cut it to the wood. So your wood, and that way you know you're always in the right place. You're not going to cut all the way through. And again, the same thing, it opens up in concertinas, which is just great. There's one. And you can do this with anything, really. If you're going to do beetroot, I suggest you put it in foil with lots of thyme and butter once you've done it, because roasting a beetroot like this it's very, very hard.
Yeah, and it takes a longer time as well.
Yeah, and parsnips are good, carrots are really good. And I think it's also one of those things that if you're teaching your children how to use a knife, you know it's going to be safe, and I think that works well. So
Exactly.
So they go in the oven.
They're going to go in the oven. I've got some garlic as well. And it's just a nice
garlic
way.
again.
I'm getting it in.
You are getting it in everywhere.
And then I'm going to put some oil over my veggies, like so.
And you could put anything you want, couldn't you? You could put sprigs of rosemary over there if you wanted to.
Yeah, garlic butter is a really nice thing. And try and sort of just get it into the
ridges.
Into those little pockets, as you would call them, a little pocket.
And I think the other thing is when you do Hasselback as well, especially carrots and parsnips, is you don't have to roast them. If you cook them in sort of water and a little bit of olive oil or butter and salt and pepper, and you cook them that way, they're delicious because you let all the liquid just evaporate and your carrots are cooked and your parsnips are cooked.
Lovely.
Very simple.
But I think the nice thing about them roasting is that they go really crispy. You get those crispy edges. So these go into an oven, about 180 to 200 for about 45 to 50 minutes. I'm just going to wash my hands.
You do that because we've got another really clever little side which has got to do with peas and onions, and we've discovered these things which are great. Frozen chopped onions.
Yeah.
So you got your onions, you chop them and then you freeze them, and that way when you use them you just put them in a little bit of oil. So
you can buy them ready chopped, or you just chop them yourself, put them in a freezer bag. We've got reusable freezer bags and they're great. Just chuck them in, chuck in what you need.
Extra onions. It's always a good thing to have because you know when you just the onions and you don't have to worry about cleaning up.
We're just using garden peas here. Probably just a few more.
And I love a frozen pea. They are indispensable. They're great for anything. Even for when you get a little bump on your head, you use your bag of peas. Onions and the peas together with some butter and a little bit of olive oil.
Yep.
And then what happens next?
So I'm just actually going to season them as well.
And you want me to cut this beetroot into quarters?
If you can just, yes, cut it into quarters.
Now, we are big fans of buying things which sometimes are ready. Pre-cooked beetroot, all done and roasted, ready to go. It is very, very easy. Cut it into small pieces and then just warm it up.
Yeah, so we've got peas, onions, and then some stock. So we're going to braise them. So that what happens then is you get a nice bit of liquid and they taste so delicious. They take on that stock. You could use chicken stock, you can use veg stock, it really doesn't matter.
And the other thing is what you do once you're at this stage, if you want to, and you've got something else to do, you can turn them off now and then later on turn it back on. It's fine because the peas will, if you stop now, they will still stay green.
Yeah, so these need to just bring up to the boil.
They need to come up to heat, and then we're going to add the beetroot.
Yeah.
Whilst those peas come up to heat before the beetroot goes in, we're going to make classic horseradish cream. You can buy horseradish cream, but we thought we might as well show you how to make it and demystify it again, another thing. And I want people to see what horseradish really is, because few people know about it. Horseradish.
Yes.
Peel your horseradish first, and then what you need to do is you need to activate it, which might sound a little bit odd. But horseradish starts off and you can smell it. It's got a little bit of a whiff of heat to it.
Yes.
But you've got to grate it. Be careful sometimes because it can be, depending on what time of year it is. But this time of year, they're very pungent. You grate your horseradish straight into a bowl. Always do a little bit extra to go with your Bloody Mary.
Do you know what? Fresh horseradish is one of those things that once you've had it and you see how easy it is to make, you sort of never go back, do you?
I don't, as you know, I love a jar, right? I love a jar, I think it's a good thing. But fresh horseradish, I'm with you. It just makes such a massive difference.
It really does.
So you grate it first, and then I said you've got to activate it.
Yes.
So by activating it, what I mean is you want to really be able to get everything to come out, the flavour of it. A little bit of salt. Roll a lemon on a bench to be able to make sure that you can squeeze it first.
Do you know the first time I made this was on MasterChef? I made a horseradish cream.
Did you?
Yeah, and activated it with my lemon juice.
And what do the judges think?
I think the judges quite liked it, actually.
Did they?
Yeah.
That's good.
I think I won, actually.
Did you? Add the lemon juice to it, and then you add the lemon juice, and it starts to wilt a little. Acid starts things to cook. That's what we're doing, so sort of curing it a little bit. And then you mix that, the lemon juice and the salt together, and give it a little bit of a stir, and suddenly, don't put your head over the bowl and try and smell it, because we can. It's quite a good party trick, but, you know, don't do it, because it really starts to get ferocious. And to that, I'm just going to add some sour cream, and then any quantity you want. If you're going to make Bloody Mary, don't add the sour cream.
So you're ready.
Horseradish cream's done.
Yeah, and our peas, look, they've reduced. So the stock has sort of gone into those peas and onions. It's a really, really lovely little dish.
Sidling up next to you.
You can sidle up next to
it. It smells so good.
And then we're just going to drop in, and those just need to warm through. They're cooked. So we're just going to warm them through, and they just add a really pretty bit of colour. You can use those fiery chili beetroot if you wanted a little extra bit of kick. And that is our peas and beetroot done.
Oh, look at this. The poshest pie in the land.
Oh, look at that.
That is what we're looking for. So, onto a tray. You can let it rest, but you see now it's not soggy because all that salmon, we've cured it.
Gosh.
So just going to cut that little end off first. Give you a little sneaky peek in there.
Chef's rights.
That's the chef's rights. And then this. Here we go. Clean knife, John. Here we are. You want a nice big slab. Use a serrated edge knife.
As my granddad would say, oh, look at that. Delicious.
What's not to like? In actual fact, what I'm going to say to you, Lisa, is I don't know if I want to save that for dinner.